So this is going to be a bit of a different video. I'm going to be talking about Just a Robot's video about Super Straight because I have some critiques with the video. There are some stuff I agree with, but there are some stuff I disagree with, and I myself am not trans, so I don't want to be too pushy or anything, but if you do disagree with me or the stuff I'm saying, then let's try to have a healthy discourse. I don't want people saying transphobic things or calling someone a transphobe just because it's not their preference. But with that out of the way, let's begin.
Super Straight! What is it? Is it a joke? Is it a dog whistle? Or is it something else entirely?
So is it a joke, dog whistle, or something else entirely? Well, if you're asking me, I would say it leans more towards being a dog whistle and something else entirely. But let's hear more of the arguments that they're going to make and then we'll continue.
I think being trans is a hard thing. 50% of them are suicidal.
Well, he didn't answer the question in the beginning, which is understandable. I mean, you gotta make a video on it after all. But I do agree with Just a Robot's statement. A lot of them are suicidal, and they do suffer from depression. Not all of them, but a lot of them do because of a lot of variables that go into play, which I cannot list them all. But for example, there are people who do reject their child for being trans, or they might even get bullied, which makes them feel even more depressed. But yeah, so far I agree with Just a Robot. He's bringing awareness to the struggles trans people face, and I appreciate that.
There's still a debate going on to this day if people should transition at all, and there's a debate about if kids should do it.
Yeah, trans issues is a really hot topic. It has been a hot topic for a while. But people really aren't focusing on if an individual person should be trans. The discourse has evolved, and it now focuses a lot on kids and whether or not kids should be able to take medications if they are trans.
I'm mostly a libertarian about trans rights. If you are doing it to yourself, go for it! But parents, stop trying to make your kids trans. It's up to them to decide, not you.
Again, yeah, I agree with Just a Robot. However, I do have one critique which I cannot overlook. Just a Robot says, go ahead and be trans if you want, but parents, stop trying to make your kid trans. And yes, while I do agree with that statement, I can't help but feel like that this is just a straw man argument. I see a lot of anti-trans people coming out and saying that parents are forcing their kids to be trans. And 9 times out of 10, whenever I hear this argument, that just isn't the case. While I'm pretty sure there are parents who do try to force their kids to be trans, and they shouldn't be doing that, a lot of them are not doing what Just a Robot may be trying to imply. I know this is anecdotal, but for someone who has been on the internet for as long as I have, knows that a lot of people tend to misrepresent what is being said. I can't tell you how many times someone tells me that a parent forced their kids to be trans. They'll send me an article like this or something. I'll leave a link if you want to read it yourself, but usually the person will tell me that the parent tried to make their kid trans, and when I read the article like this, that's just not the case. And this does go both ways. It's not like only one side is misrepresenting the actual argument, but I do tend to see it more from the anti-trans group than the pro-trans group.
First video I saw was the one from Sam Cullen.
So there we have it, everybody. Super straight. You know, you can just call yourself straight. You can still be straight, not be transphobic, and not want to date trans people. I would love to know the occasion on which this man was asked that question about trans women. According to my knowledge, trans women do not stoop that low.
I agree with most of what he said, but there are trans people who think that people who don't want to date them hate them.
Oh wow, the meta has just evolved. I am now a person reacting to a video of people reacting to a person reacting to a controversial topic. But yeah, I watched Sam's video. It was really good. I would highly encourage that you check it out yourself. I'm gonna leave a link in the description below. But in my opinion, it doesn't feel like they're being as courteous to Sam in the 2 videos they showed of him because it's just 2 clips from the same video. The first clip is him giving his opinion on the topic, which we all agree with, and the second clip is him talking about the origins of Super Straight. And it just feels really nitpicky. Of all the stuff he was talking about, you talk about that one specific thing he said. Of all the videos they pulled from his clip, they neglected that which was the most important, and it is the video of him showing the origins of Super Straight, which I'll now play here.
Since straight people or straight men as myself, I get called transphobic because I wouldn't date a trans woman. You know, they're like, would you date a trans woman? I'm like, no, why? That's a female. no, like, that's not a real woman to me, like, I want real woman. No, you're just transphobic. So now, I'm super straight. I only date the opposite gender, women, that are born women. So you can't say I'm transphobic now, because that's just my sexuality, you know?
There's a lot to unpack from this video. First off, he says that he will not date a trans woman because a trans woman is not a woman to him. If you don't want to date a trans person solely because they are trans, then yes, that is transphobic. Transphobia is defined as dislike or prejudice against trans people, and if the sole reason why you identify as super straight is because you want to exclude trans people, then yes, you are transphobic. And I highly doubt that the creator of Super Straight is just memeing. Go watch Sam's video and you can form your own opinion. And if most people watch this and agree with it and start using super straight so that they can exclude trans people, then yes, they are transphobic as well. Are there ways to be super straight and not be transphobic? Yeah, I would say there are ways. I mean, if you just don't want to date a trans person because it's not your preference, that's different than not dating a trans person because they're trans.
Then somebody said, it's the transphobia for me, and they said, don't care. So clearly they don't care if people are transphobic, and they're even admitting it themselves. I want you to keep this in mind for the post going forward.
I think they're saying they don't care if people call them that.
I wanted to check out the account so that I could discover more about it, however I could not find it, so my only conclusion is that the account no longer exists. You can interpret what that person said either way. You could interpret it that they don't care that they're being called transphobic, or that they don't care that they are transphobic. However, I don't think that matters, because if I had to bet if this person is transphobic or not, I would bet money that they are. They created an account, and based off of this post, it really feels like they're trying to make a mockery out of the LGBT community. And even if you want to say they're just memeing around, they're just making jokes, memes and jokes can reflect what type of person you are. So I feel like when people say, oh, they're just memeing, they're just joking around, they're really devaluing what the person actually believes in. It seems like it's a really quick way to negate any argument.
I think trans people have it rough, and still have a long way to go for getting rights. That's because some trans people, hashtag not all of them, do try to get people who are not into trans people to sleep with them.
Wait, just a robot. You acknowledge that trans people still have a long way to go to reach equality, yet you're putting the blame not on the people who say that they're not real women or real men, not the people who do whatever they can to make sure that they don't get equal rights, but you're putting the blame on the small minority of trans people who go around sleeping with people who don't want to sleep with trans people? Why? I mean, yeah, it's pretty messed up that there are trans people who do that, but why are you putting the blame on that small minority of trans people and not the bigger majority of people who want trans people to stop existing?
I like rule number 1 because it says not to hate on the community, but yet this whole sexuality is a mockery of the entire community, so that doesn't even make any sense.
I don't feel that way. I think most of them are just sick of being called transphobic, or are just memeing.
If someone is sick of being called transphobic, then it's not like one person called them that. It's like they're getting called transphobic on a daily basis. And if that's the case, then your first reaction shouldn't be to identify as super straight. You need to take a step back and analyze why people are calling you transphobic. You need to be honest with yourself. Ask why you're so opposed to the idea of transgender people. If it's just because you don't want to date them, nothing more, nothing less, then yeah, that's totally fine. You're not transphobic. But if your gut reaction is to identify as super straight because you're tired of being called transphobic, then you really need to analyze what's really going on in your mind. Also, like I said, jokes and memes can reflect the type of person you are. If I make super straight jokes, and the joke is that I'm making fun of the idea of super straight, that's different from making super straight jokes, and the joke is to belittle trans people.
Don't get me wrong, I'm sure there are a few of them who are using it to make fun of trans people, but hashtag not all.
Remember how Just a Robot said that trans people are having a hard time getting equal rights because some transgender people, not all, are going around sleeping with people that don't want to sleep with them? But in this instance, he's not putting the blame on the small minority of people who he believes are transphobic. So why is it in one case you're putting the blame on a small group of people, but in another case you're not putting the blame on a small group of people?
I see this guy along with a lot of other people making fun of the people in the TikToks. The thing is, 90% of them are trolls who want to be roasted.
I guess at this point it just comes down to differing opinions. I don't know where they pulled out that 90% of them are trolls who want to be roasted, but I don't know the content that they're speaking of. I haven't seen videos of people intentionally wanting to get roasted. Don't get me wrong, I'm pretty sure they do exist, but based off of my experience, I've seen a lot of people use super straight as a way to devalue the trans movement more than as a joke to make fun of being super straight.
I think there is an argument to be made that this could make trans hate go up.
Yes, there is an argument to be made. Super straight is transphobic. Now, can super straight exist in a world where it's not transphobic? Yes, it is possible, but the current world we live in, super straight is transphobic because most of the people who use it are transphobic. There are people who just say it just for the lols, but they moved on to better and more dank memes, so the only people who stick around are those who actually believe in it.
But people are already saying that everyone who calls themselves super straight are transphobic.
Yeah, there are going to be people who will call you transphobic for being super straight, but you did show Sam Collins, a man who has over 1 million followers, saying that you can be super straight and not be transphobic. And later on in the video, they do show someone who says that you can be super straight and not be transphobic. So there are people out there advocating that you can be one and not the other, but when you say people, it kind of sounds like that you're trying to say that most of, if not all people, will call you transphobic immediately just because you're super straight.
It's true that we shouldn't throw labels like transphobic around, as it could possibly minimize actual discrimination in the world.
This is going to be the last clip I play from them, but I do not agree with this statement. While there are people out there who do use words like transphobic, sexist, racist, homophobic too much, they're so eager to use them, they're just flinging them out like hotcakes. However, that's not to say that we shouldn't call someone out when they are doing so. We just need to be more careful who we label these terms and why we're doing so. If you just ignore a problem and not call someone out when they need to be called out, that doesn't fix the problem. That's pretty reductive actually. But anyways, that's gonna do it for the video. I'm pretty sure a lot of you are gonna disagree with me, but I just wanted to make this video. No hate towards Just a Robot or any of his colleagues. I think his video did overall better for the trans community than it does harm. I just wanted to make this video because I just had a few critiques with it. But anyways, that's gonna do it for the video. Later.